And then after the show, the news came that you were waiting to hear. Not exactly the news you wanted to hear, but you certainly were waiting to hear it. And that is Sha'Carri Richardson, who, as I just mentioned in the Sports Center, did test positive for marijuana and therefore was disqualified for making the team for the 100 meter in the Olympics. But because of the suspension of 30 days, she actually would have been available. Her suspension would have been up by then to run in the 4x100, but they did not choose her to make the team. And there was no, they just put out a statement. The USA Track Federation put out a statement saying it was, quote, incredibly sympathetic towards Sha'Carri Richardson's extenuating circumstances, and then said it fully agrees, this is key right here, fully agrees that international rules regarding marijuana should be reevaluated. And it added, so while our heartfelt understanding lies with Sha'Carri, we must also maintain fairness for all of the athletes who attempted to realize their dreams by securing a place on the U.S. Olympic track and field team. So with that in mind, the relay spots, because of the, the order, the 6th and 7th place finishers ended up moving up and therefore getting spots, English Gardner and Aaliyah Hobbs. So that's where we're at. So Sha'Carri will not go to the Olympics at all. And I know you feel a certain way about it. What everybody's continuing to say, and as I mentioned yesterday, I thought she handled it perfectly.
Agreed.
By showing the contrition that you would expect, you'd want to show, no excuses, no nothing, did explain what she went through, again, the emotions of learning that her biological mother had passed. She learned it from a reporter who was setting up to interview her, which caught her off guard, and then dealt with it in a way that she realized was not the right way to deal with it, but it cost her now a spot at the Olympics. She vows to be back at the Worlds and then once again at the next Olympics, but she will not be in Tokyo for the U.S. Your thoughts?
So yesterday, as we talked about this, you remember what you said when I was like, well, she's the fastest. It's a no-brainer, right? To be on the Olympic team, right? I was not as confident, and here we are. Let me say this. She handled the response to the initial test perfectly. Incredibly graceful, accountability. She said that she was hopeful that if she had this opportunity, she would be given an opportunity, she would be able to take advantage of it. We now know that she will not. Yes, rules are rules. I appreciate the fact that the committee acknowledges that the IOC standards when it comes to marijuana need to be reviewed. I cannot help but wonder if this plays out differently if she's different. And I know I'm going to be accused of race baiting and the whole bit, but I just cannot help but wonder. And I do also understand the rules. Now, I've talked with folks in my circle last night preparing for the show. There's the argument that, well, she blew it, and can you trust her not to blow it again between now and then in the relay, right? And that's part of this conversation, too. But to me, if you believe that this incident was isolated because of the response to very unfortunate circumstances, then she's the fastest out there. Now, I'd have to call up my track friends and say, her availability to practice and the handoff, because we've seen the women's 4x1 relay team have some issues. I just wanted this to be the opportunity for her to be given some grace, and that was not the case.
Yeah, I mean, there is that part of me that, again, I always look at it from the business perspective, right? So the business perspective is you're going to have your reasoning, and a lot of the times you can't make your true reason public.
Right.
So you have to come up with, a statement, as we always tend to do, and we just try to keep it as simple and clean as possible so no one's upset and we don't say anything that might offend somebody. But I think the reality is what you said. The reality probably is, even like she was suspended, she would come off the suspension. Oh, yeah, we'd love to have her on the 4x. We'd love to have her. But we can't guarantee that her system will be clear. What if she tests positive again?
Yeah.
And now we're down a runner. We can't take that risk. We can't do that to the rest of the team. So it's easier for us, may not be the right thing, but easier for us to say, we can't guarantee she'll be available. So let's do this. But I will also say, on another side of things, in professional sports, a lot of times a superstar, the team will go to bat for them. A lot of times,
that part.
A team will say, this isn't right. We know her. We've known her for years. This is not who she is, and we are going to defend her We're gonna make a case for it. We're gonna appeal this, whatever it is, because she should be there with us in Tokyo. That's how important she is to us. They did not do that.
That part, Han. And so to me, that's the grace of this conversation.
They will never tell us why.
We will never know why. I'm only left to deduce why as I look at some of the other stories surrounding the Olympics, particularly involving black women. When you look at the runners out of Africa who were deemed to have too much testosterone or in their system and ineligible to run. When you look at the issue with the swim caps that are designed for women with natural hair, black natural hair, being ruled out. This is a culmination of events that feel, to me personally, as a black woman, as an attack on our womanhood. Now, granted, Sha'Carri broke the rule. That does not change. But when it comes to, as you said, going to bat or finding an abundance of grace, that is not given in this situation. And that just makes me a little bit sad. Now, Gabby Thomas, a terrific sprinter, pointed out on Twitter last night that she's, it bothers her to see this idea, particularly on Twitter, that black folks are not going to support the Olympics. I had some friends joking, oh, what country am I going to root for? Because I'm not rooting for the U.S. because Sha'Carri won't be there. Gabby Thomas and the rest of the runners and athletes that are going to be competing have worked very hard to get to this moment. I'm going to tune in. But when I reflect on the things leading up to Tokyo, this unfortunately will be a part of the narrative. And to me, some of the decisions and the rules, it has to do with what is unknown as opposed to getting educated.
Let me ask you this, Monica. Then what would you have done if you were in charge? How would you have handled this? What would you have liked to have seen when, let's say you were in charge of the team?
Correct.
And it came onto your desk, she tested positive for what is in the IOC. Now, this is the Olympics. Mm-hmm. This is international.
Yep.
This is a banned substance. This is not a U.S. decision. This is a international. You agree to play by the rules of the International Olympic Committee, and this is the rule. This should not be in your system. It's in her system. How would you handle it?
Where else can I get her in? Because she represents
right. Well, that's the part. The suspension would have been
talented,
up.
Right.
She would have been able to race in the 4x. Would you? So you would have her race, and you would tell the rest of the team, we side with her. We trust her.
I would put her on my 4x team, and I would live with the consequences. I do not buy that she's going to have this issue again. Personally, I just don't see it. I would put her on the 4x team, and the answer to me would be, look at these times, look at these scores. We want to put ourselves in the best position to win. Now, if she has a history of fumbling handoffs or something, I don't know that. Assuming that she is capable to run the 4x and is well skilled in this event as well, I'm putting her on my team, hon. I'm sorry.
I mean, the fastest should be in the anchor, right? Shouldn't the fastest be the anchor?
Sports, can't debate that. I'm putting her on my 4x team. That's where I am. And I get it. Then the question becomes, well, are you going to make exceptions consistently down the road? No, that would not be it. But in this particular case, and I don't know how often this comes up when we get ready to prepare for the Olympics, in this particular case, I would have put her on my 4x team, and I'm not apologizing for that.
Yeah, and just to explain to everybody, too, because I know there has been, especially in a lot of states in this country, a lot more leniency when it comes to marijuana, a much different feel about it. This is one thing that the U.S. anti-doping agency believes that there are some drugs, though they might not be performance enhancers, but they can pose health risks or violate what they call, quote, the spirit of the sport. And so that's why this still remains an issue. But just quickly, Sha'Carri did say, you remember in her interview with the Today Show, that she said that this is just one games. I'm 21. I'm very young. I have plenty of games left in me to compete in, and I have plenty of talent that backs me up because everything I do comes from me naturally. No steroid, no anything. This incident was about marijuana. So after my sanction is up, I'll be back and be able to compete. And every single time I step on the track, I'll be ready for whatever anti-doping agency to come and get what it is they need, meaning that she knows now she's going to be somebody that they keep an eye on and are going to want to test.
I am one personally who has learned the most from my biggest fumbles, blunders in life. And so if this is that for her, then she still has a very bright future ahead of her in the sport.
Keyshawn J. Will Zubin brought to you by Goodyear. Goodyear knows from here on out every game is a chance to create momentum, to make the right pass, the right move, to hit the perfect shot. It takes momentum to get through the playoffs. It takes everything to capture a title. Goodyear, more driven. So we have also international competition going on right now on ESPN, the Euro Cup.
Go football! Oh, I'm trying to get hype. I was trying to go there.
You're going to try to go goal here? Yeah, goal. Let's let Taylor Twellman handle this kind of thing because this is his expertise. He joins us right now on the Goodyear Hotline, our ESPN soccer analyst. Good morning, Taylor. How are you?
Good morning, Alan. One is debatable whether or not this is my expertise in Monica. It's too early for gold, by the way.
Is it too early? 12, and I'm so disappointed. Everything I know about you, have watched you, all of our colleagues we have in common, you bring the energy. Too early for gold? Come on now.
No, it's never too early. I just feel like those at 6:45 in the morning on the East Coast may be like, "Yo, Monica, tone it down."
It's the point of a morning show. Gotta wake them up.
Actually, Monica and tone it down.
don't
She's
mix.
generally at a 12, and the dial only supposed to go
Which is
to
why
10.
Monica and I get along, Alan.
There it is. There it is.
That's good. So before we get into what we're seeing right now and penalty kicks and Italy moving on, and of course today's match, just your thoughts, because again, an international play, no matter what the sport, there are tests, there are rules, and there are things that happen where players are not available. And the Sha'Carri Richardson situation is one that does resonate not just in track, but I think in all sports. Do you have any thoughts on that in her that she was left off the Olympic team?
Alan, I just and Monica as well. I feel like all of us are in that same, I think, group of people where you sit there and you feel for Sha'Carri. She's trained her absolute butt off to get to this point. She's worked her butt off. She's literally, the top 3 contenders coming into the Olympics to win the gold. And you sit there and say, "Oh, your heart goes out to her," and understanding that pain-killing medicine, and even in my days, and I'm not that old, painkillers were given out freely in the locker rooms. And now that we have seen science evolve and see that there are other avenues, you understand and you empathize with Sha'Carri, understanding why she's taking her pain away and what she wants to do and do it in a natural way. In saying that, all of us that have competed at the highest level, rules are rules. As ludicrous as this rule may be, it's still a rule. And so that's where I'm just really torn. I feel awful for her. I feel awful for all of us on the outside that don't get to see her race and compete at the highest level. But unfortunately, Alan, a rule is a rule, and until the rule changes, you can't be the one to enforce a different one. And I think that's the most difficult part to all of this for me.
I found it very interesting, too, that they acknowledged, like, hey, this is something we probably need to look into and may need to discuss going forward. But as you mentioned, Taylor, rule's a rule. And again, your experience playing for the U.S. national team, playing in the World Cup, which is why we go there first. But when we talk about rules, I got to ask you. Now,